Good morning, my name is Chris Adlam with Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm delighted to be joined by Nick, the General Cafes Manager at Paddy and Scott's. Hello there, Nick.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for giving up your valuable time to speak to me this morning. And I guess my sort of start of a 10 question has to be, can you tell us a little bit about Paddy and Scott's, what it is you do?
So the company was started back in 2007. It was a very small kind of wholesale company. They were selling coffee beans to various different people, and then at some point the founders decided that they wanted to get the beans direct from the farmers, so kind of cut out all the brokers and all that kind of stuff. So they actually supported the building or expansion of a farm over in Meru in Kenya, where they kind of supported the farmer to be able to improve the systems that they were using, and so we get our beans directly from this farm now without it having to go through lots of other different companies. So we can ship it straight over to the UK, and we have it roasted in the UK, and then it's sent to us so we can make it into a great coffee. And we now have 2 official coffee shops and one that's kind of run by Colchester County Council, and they use all of our kind of banners and products and stuff like that, but a kind of a separate entity to the 2 main cafes that we have.
That's amazing. Thank you. I know it's never easy if I just say, what does your business do, for someone to succinctly sort of summarize it, but that was, really well done. And if you had to sort of summarize, as you say, sort of, because obviously getting product directly from the source, get it to an organization, as you say, or multiple locations, I'm assuming obviously there's different roles within the organization. So if you had to sort of summarize the different sort of roles within sort of Paddy and Scott's, what would they be?
Yeah, so I mean, actually, the cafe side of it is very small part of the business at the moment.
Yeah.
The main part is that wholesale delivery. So what happens is the beans are coming in and roasted. They're sent down to a distribution centre, which is over in Tuddenham in Ipswich. And so we have a distribution manager. We also have sort of procurement and ordering managers who sit and they'll take all the online orders from all of our trade customers. And when that's all booked in, they'll send those over to the fulfillment centre, as we call it, over in Tuddenham. And then our procurement dispatch manager will actually then box all of those orders up and send them out all around the UK. So we've got various hotels, small pubs, restaurants and all that use Paddy and Scott's coffee. So we have to get all of that out to them. So they can either through the website or they can phone up and speak to us directly. So yeah, there's about probably 7 or 8 people on the team that will manage different stages of that journey.
That's amazing, and again, you've done well to summarise like a logistics and a supply chain.
It's not my area of expertise, I'll be honest.
No, that's absolutely fine, and so no, I love how you summarise that part, and I wanted to actually then also look at the other side, then to, as you say, look at the sort of cafe side of things. So to look at sort of and the sort of the hospitality sort of type side as well, customer service and that kind of thing. And imagine I'm a young person and I'm wanting to come and work at a Paddy and Scott's cafe. What kind of things are you looking for from me in terms of whether it's experiences on my CV or the soft skills I present? What kind of things do I need to put across to you to make you think actually you'd be a really good fit here?
Yeah, well, we pretend that we do things very differently, but there's probably other companies out there that follow a similar kind of ethos. So our tagline is fueling ambition. So it's very much about looking for people that want to progress in any way. It doesn't have to necessarily be within coffee. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a business sense, but they want to come and learn something and achieve something. And they're ambitious enough to kind of know which direction they want to go in. If they then choose to come and get some of that experience at Paddy and Scott's, then obviously what we're looking for is for people who are friendly, approachable, hardworking is a standard, but actually if people have got the right attitude, we'll teach them how to do all the tasky stuff. Actually, what we want is people that come in and will jump on talking to a customer and giving them the great service, and understanding that if there's a queue, that we need to talk to everybody in that queue as quickly as possible and deliver great customer service. And I'm sure this is stuff that hospitality companies all over the world will kind of deliver as an ethos. But actually, one of the things that brought me to Paddy and Scott's was the fact that not only are we trying to fuel the ambition of the people that work here, but actually we're looking at expanding that fueling ambition over to places like the coffee farm, where we can support communities in developing their own processes, and allowing the kids of the farmers that work on that farm to go into a school that we then support and things like that. So yeah, we're looking for people that have that kind of level of ambition, that they want to do something different. And whatever that might be, we want to help support getting them into that.
No, that's amazing to hear. And I'm curious, what kind of working environment does, as I say, having a workforce of people who are ambitious, especially when you know that, as I say, all the work you're doing is having positive impacts on the other side of the world, what
Yeah.
kind of, as I say, working environment does that generate?
Generally quite a positive one. It's great because
Yes.
I think the only thing that becomes a bit tiring is that because we like ambition and we like people with great ideas, ideas fly around quite a lot. So there's a lot of creative people with a lot of great ideas, and actually one of my jobs is to kind of work out which one of those ideas is going to be worth pursuing and developing into something bigger for the company, and which ones might be a good idea but might be the wrong timing and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of discussion around what we can and can't do in the immediate, but I think we're always open to doing something completely different and sometimes even completely left field. We had a little discussion today, for example, about selling popcorn and having a little popcorn stand outside the building that would people passing by would just be able to come and buy popcorn from us. It might not happen, but it was an idea that came out through conversation. So yeah, very creative team.
That's brilliant. And speaking as someone who is, I think I've worked in some environments like that, as an employee, it must be so out of it warming and rewarding to know that actually you've got an employer who is going to, as I say, sort of consider, embrace, be willing to hear any ideas, suggestions, moments of pure inspiration, that you might have. And as I say, that must, as you say, generate a nice, positive working environment because they know that, they can, if an employee has got an idea, they can come to you, they can talk about it openly.
Yeah.
Whereas, say, there are plenty of organisations which, they shut the door on you where you don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's policy and procedure that has to be followed for certain things, which is usually the only reason that we wouldn't follow an idea up, because the amount of red tape and stuff, or the safety aspect of it, is it's just not worth us trying to do something that's going to put people at risk or is not going to achieve anything. But yeah, I think the general creativity goes through the whole team, so it's not just in the cafes; it's the whole company have this kind of ethos of, wow, that sounds like a good idea. Let's see what we can do with it.
That's brilliant, and again, a nice concise summary of policy. And as I say, done really well to smush that down into a sentence. Going to my next question, and if we focus specifically, imagine we've got someone who's, as I say, working within a Paddy and Scott's cafe, at either of your sites. I will straight away prefix by saying I know there's no such thing as a typical day. Well aware of that. Doesn't matter what there's no such thing as a typical day. But if you had to summarise on, if there's someone working in a cafe, what are the kind of things they'll be doing during a day, and also what do the good days look like, and what do the challenging days look like?
Okay, so I mean, I can run you through a semi-typical day. So there's obviously things that have to be done. So like we prepare all the food in the morning. So we get all of the sandwiches and everything out on display. We cook all of our pastries and everything in-house. So they get cooked and put out on display first thing in the morning. And then it's things like setting up the coffee machine to make sure that it's our beans are being ground to the right requirements, and that the machine is then putting the espresso to the best standards. And then so we test a couple of drinks, obviously. Perk of the job. And then it's things like setting up, making sure that the cafe is clean and tidy and organized, opening up the tills, and then it's kind of waiting for the customers to come in, and they're usually here literally the minute the doors open. There's people here to be served, and then the rest of the day is literally just managing around customers, because we don't always know exactly when they're going to come in. We have peaks and troughs like most businesses, and there is a bit of a pattern that goes through that. But around those times, we don't know whether a busload of people are going to turn up because they've got a visit at the university where we're based, or there's just a group of people that have decided they want to come for coffee in the morning. So you can be surprised when you suddenly have a busy period that you weren't expecting, and that can be quite challenging because you might have just started doing something else, like let's go and deep clean the kitchen because we know we're going to be quiet for an hour or so, and then a load of people turn up, so you have to kind of abandon that. So there's a lot of being dynamic and kind of thinking on your feet, because when you expect it to be quiet, it might be really busy. When you expect it to be really busy, you might find it's really quiet, and you have to be able to adapt the tasks that we have to do throughout the day to maintain things like food safety and health and safety and hygiene and all those things. You have to work those around when the customers are in, because you can't have half the team off cleaning and there's a massive queue of customers going out the door.
I mean, I've got quite a bit of hospitality sort of customer service background myself, and I can relate so much to so many people today. As you say, yeah, I definitely relate to the fact you need to be prepared to drop a task all of a sudden because, as you say, yeah, a coachload of people could come in through the door. You could think to yourself, well, it's been quiet for absolutely hours, and then suddenly it changes just like that. Which I think for a lot of people is actually an attractive part of the industry and the sector, is the fact that, as you say, you're doing different things. You have it can be fast paced, and you have to change and be able to do tasks that maybe you're very familiar with or less familiar with within seconds of each other.
Absolutely, and it's very rewarding when you get those kind of surprise things, and then you get to the end of it and you go, well, we nailed that. The team all pulled together, we managed to serve the customers great, everyone's having a nice time, lovely buzzy atmosphere in the cafe. But alternatively, it doesn't always go perfectly well, and then you have to have a bit of a debrief as to, okay, well, what could we have done differently to make it work better next time? And that comes from having a nice, positive, creative team, because they'll throw their opinions in. They won't just go, oh, that was rubbish, or we better just go home now. It's kind of okay, so what did we do? What can we do differently? What didn't really work at that particular time?
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And I could definitely relate to, like, at the end of a very busy shift and stuff, you do feel like proud of yourself as a team. As I say, you reacted well to everything, handle everyone's requests and stuff. And it is very unifying. And I've found very few jobs that provide that same, oh, well done, guys, we all banded together and did it, like sort of hospitality sector.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in hospitality now for about 20 years, and I think there's no, even when I've tried to pull myself away from it, I always come back, because you kind of miss those random highs, that kind of unexpected things that could just make your day. And even if even something terrible happens and it's a disastrous day, I think that generally doesn't outweigh all the good days that you have when you've got a team of people around you who are just passionate about what they're doing.
No, that's amazing to hear. And it leads me quite nicely actually onto my final question, because you started talking a little bit about your experiences there. And this final question comes in two parts, which is, one, as you say, can you sort of summarize a little bit to us about sort of your career path, the experiences you've had, your journey, and taking all those things into account, maybe it's the successes you've had, the mistakes you've made, things you've learned from. If you were to go back and speak to, let's say something like 17-year-old Nick, about to go out sort of on your career path, what would be the one piece of career advice you'd give to your younger self?
Wow. Okay, it's quite a lot to unpack there. I think initially, if we take that part, the kind of conversation with my 17-year-old self, I think I would probably, I would say, be wary of your dreams and absolutely go for them, be ambitious, but also try and keep a little amount of realism in there as well. When I was 17, I wanted to be a doctor. I was doing A-levels to go and study medicine, and realised that actually life was quite fun if you didn't do all studying all the time. And so ended up kind of finding a social life and all those kind of things. And so my passion for wanting to be a doctor reduced slightly. And I kind of wanted to experience life. And I think if I could go back and have that conversation, it'd be, make the right choices. Don't change what you're doing, because absolutely they worked out for me in the long run, and I don't regret any of that. But actually, just, I think, to be wary and realistic. If I'd gone off and studied medicine, my life would be very different to what it is now, and I don't know that I would even be the same person. So yeah, it's difficult. I mean, so many young people were nice and ambitious, have got great plans for what they want to do, and I would never want to dampen that. But at the same time, I think some people who sort of want to go and be an astronaut with NASA, absolutely capable, but there's going to be some people that are going to have some barriers or restrictions in their life, and they just need to be relatively open to the fact that it can be challenging, and it's not just going to be a straight road to from, say, school to the dream job.